Okay, well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville. My name is Andy Wilson, and I'm the Executive Director, and I want to tell you, we have got such a great show for you today. I cannot wait to have this discussion and for you to hear what we're going to talk about today. We've got really two great leaders in the technology space that's going to be here with us this morning, and we're going to get into this very quick. But before, let me just remind you just a bit about Doing Business in Bentonville. You know, our goal and our purpose is to demystify the omni-channel retail experience. And I promise you that's going to happen today with our guest today. So let's just get straight into it. So let me welcome our guest. Josh, welcome. We're so glad you're here today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'll tell you, and you know, we've done this before. You know, I remember, in fact, I was telling Grant that I think my first podcast was with you.
Yes, you, me, Eric, and Saeed last year.
That's right.
The introduction to Plug and Play to the community.
It was. What a great start. So, you know, I owe you a lot of credit, you know, for getting us started and getting us really focused on that. So, so now our other guest, Grant, tell us about you, Grant Waller. Welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, tell us. We're going to go back to Plug and Play a bit, but introduce yourself to us. I know you're all about a startup. You're getting involved in that. You've got a great history here in Northwest Arkansas, Walmart, J.B. Hunt, University of Arkansas, all of that. But tell us a bit about your company, and then we'll come back to that.
Yeah, sure thing. And thank you for having me. I am a local to the Northwest Arkansas community, and I love to see innovation in this region. Obviously, Plug and Play has been a big part of that. And I went to the University of Arkansas and then joined Plug and Play right after college and got to have some visibility into the startup ecosystem, what was going on. I ended up joining a company called Arkestro that I'm with today. I joined as an account executive, and we do predictive procurement. And really, we're trying to create an efficient market for B2B commerce.
I like it. Okay, good. Well, I can't wait to get into that more. But we're going to go back, and Josh Saffran, again, thank you for being here and for our relationship. Really, as you mentioned earlier, you know, it was really my first podcast, okay, and getting into, and I just have admired Plug and Play ever since that day. I was so impressed with what your mission, your vision, and what you're doing. So a lot of our people may be not as familiar with your company, so why don't you tell us about Plug and Play?
Yeah, we are a Silicon Valley-based venture capital company that's got a headquarters in Sunnyvale, California. Our CEO, Saeed Amidi, he was an early investor in companies like Google, Dropbox, PayPal, and so he thought there was something to the startup community and technology. We've been here for about 5 years now. I had big shoes to fill when Grant left and came in to run the office. And what we do really is we introduce startup technology to corporate partners like Walmart, Tyson, J.B. Hunt, a lot of the suppliers that we work with as well, and to solve pain points and challenges in the supply chain space. So if someone is looking for a way how to autonomously unload a trailer, and they can't solve that on their own, they'll look to us to source from our database of over 60,000 startups all around the world, the right startups to fit with the challenge that they've put in front of us.
You know, one of the things I would really recommend our listeners should do and people reviewing today, you know, is go to your website. It's such a great website. And one of the things I was so taken back by, and I remember from our first visit we had, but you talked about the world is moving fast. We help you move faster.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, that's exactly what's happening today. So talk about how do you bring the brightest minds to this whole industry? Talk about that. It's amazing.
Well, I think, we talked a little bit about it last time, but I've had another full year to experience it even more.
Right.
The suppliers, the big companies that we work with, there's a lot of bureaucracy. It's hard to make decisions.
Right.
If they've invested in a certain technology,
right,
they're not looking to scrap it. They're looking to find ways to enhance, fix, and develop it. And so a lot of the startups that we bring to the table are able to move a lot quicker. So somebody like Arkestro, for example, like they're not here to displace an SAP, but they would be a tech stack that layers on top of something like that,
Right.
utilizing existing technology, and then they're enhancing it in order to solve problems. And so I think when you could bring somebody in like that from the outside that sees the world very differently, it's a tremendous added value to a company that probably can't move as fast to solve those technology challenges.
Well, I know you, that's wonderful. And I know you're involved in a lot of things, from events and all kind of things. I know you and I worked together at an event recently that you did around healthcare.
Yes.
So before we end this podcast, I think it would be great if you come back and talk about some of the upcoming events that you're doing. Of course, for our audience, we will give you all the information how to contact both of these companies, and there's some articles that we'll publish also online at our website. So we're going to do a lot of that at the end. But I think it would be great to just say, okay, if you're interested in, after we have this conversation, this is how you can get in touch with us. So we'll do that for sure. Okay,
Absolutely.
Make sure. So. Or we got to go to the startup, right? And so I know Grant's over here like, hey, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk about this. But so why don't you two guys talk a bit about how y'all got together, and how this is working with both companies now, and sort of explain this whole process and procedure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
So yeah, I guess, I'm with Arkestro. Arkestro is a portfolio company of Plug and Play. So Plug and Play invested in the early stages of Arkestro, and that gives us a great visibility into the ecosystem of large corporations across the globe, and split up into vertical. The supply chain team at Plug and Play does a great job of helping connect the startups with corporations all over, especially here in Northwest Arkansas.
So what we typically, we will invest in a portion of companies like Arkestro, and then we will have others that maybe just be a different or the right fit at the right time. So when we have somebody like Arkestro that we see has a lot of value and can help both suppliers and retailers, particularly coming out of COVID with a lot of the challenges right now in the AI and predictive procurement space. I mean, it's easy for me to talk to any of our corporate partners and say, I have a startup I think will solve your needs. And Grant is fantastic. He's local, and the whole leadership team at Arkestro is really, really well. Edmund's the CEO, and we have a great opportunity to introduce them, and they're great in front of the clients. They really represent us and their own brand very well.
So Grant, so tell our audience, okay, and how has this helped you? Plug and Play relationship.
Yeah.
So to walk through that from your perspective, and then I know you want, Josh, you want to add some of that too, but let's talk about those. I think people will be very interested that are in that space that you talked about, hey, I need help. I need direction. I need to move faster in a world that's moving fast. So talk about that from your perspective.
Yeah. So, Plug and Play is an accelerator, and for a startup, any stage that you're in, whether you're, pre-seed, seed, Series A, we're in our Series A stage. There is benefit to networking within the VC community and the corporate network. So, being able to go to a Plug and Play event where, they bring in the decision makers into one room, Plug and Play knows what these guys are looking for, what their teams are looking for in terms of technology innovation, and they bring the right startups into that room to make sure that that these companies like Arkestro are getting visibility, where we can bring value to companies like Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, et cetera. And so that's the value that I get is this network that they bring. We can learn directly from these decision makers and figure out what it is they're looking for. Like within the procurement space, it's they need better prices during inflationary periods. They need their suppliers to be able to deliver on time and full.
Right.
And so it gives us a platform to share our story there.
So from your perspective, before you go in, I know what is your process? It's got to be detailed. Because you got to learn how to ask the right questions, I'm assuming. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I use this example all the time. If we're talking to a corporation, they go, we need help in robotics. Well, that's super broad. So we try to peel that onion back quite a bit. So are you looking for pre-seed companies? Are you looking for companies in Series C that have multiple use cases that they have out in the marketplace today right now? So we talk through that. Are you looking for somebody that's North America based? Or are you looking for somebody that's around the world? We just brought a startup in that we found in Portugal to help a North American based company that they never would have seen or found them before. So we ask a lot of probing questions so we can make sure that we have the right fit. Last year, when we had a chance to do a huge event, we had Arkestro on stage with 7 or 8 other companies specifically focused on inventory health coming out of COVID. And we had a room of about 250 retail supplier-based folks that were thinking through things very differently. And so we could bring events like that together here and have folks like Arkestro be up on stage and people go, aha, I didn't know this existed. And I have this problem that I think they could help me solve.
Wow. What a great resource, right, Brent? I mean, how would bring that knowledge, that expertise, and then be able to surround you with worldwide great companies. I mean, your reach on Plug and Play is like you just said, is worldwide. And when you go to the website and look at it, it's astonishing at the knowledge and the expertise around the subject matters you can bring.
I think what's interesting is, in addition to finding startups all around the world, if we have a local startup, we can introduce them to Mercedes. We can introduce them to Roche. We can introduce them to Amazon. We can introduce them to Costco. We can introduce them to so on and so forth and so on and so forth. And so we have huge access, and depending on what is needed from the startup, there's a lot of folks here running programs in Arkansas that just don't have the reach outside the region that we can provide.
So, wow, that had to help. Now, you know, I want to go back. I love stories, and I read a great story about your company this earlier when I was prepping, and the story it said, you know, it's that a person can search and select hundreds of different items from different suppliers on a smartphone in 5 minutes, and why should a similar process in business context take so much time and be so painful?
Yeah.
So tell me what happened around that story. Because I think that story led to this, and it's connected. And again, the point about the story is so many startups are there. They're in. It's a great story. We started in a garage. You know, you start wherever, and now you get to a point. I need help. Of course, you have Plug and Play sitting beside you, and that's wonderful at this point. But the story about the company, tell me about that.
Yeah, so, you know, as you were mentioning the last event that Plug and Play hosted in Bentonville, I was remembering Edmund, who was our CEO, standing on the stage, and he said, raise your hand if you've ever had a material or spare part shortage in the last year. And every single person raised their hand. Yeah. And, you know, it's those kind of environments that are really fantastic for startups to get feedback and then to go talk through those challenges. In terms of, you know, the company Arkestro, we used to be called BitOps, formerly BitOps, and we grew our scope and scale of the company and what we're going to do rather than just bidding. It's more of a procurement orchestration platform. And our co-founder, one of our co-founders, Rob DeSantis, was actually a co-founder of Ariba Technologies back in the 90s. So now SAP Ariba. He, you know, basically they were taking purchase orders and putting them online. So it was complete innovation in the procurement space, and it gave companies the ability to manage procurement more effectively. And then Rob DeSantis obviously had huge success there, exited, and didn't touch procurement again until he found Edmund and Arkestro. And really what he saw was fast time to value and kind of this autonomous procurement, assisting procurement teams to speed up processes and to get to desired results faster.
Right. Well, you know, I think it's great that and I think that's one of the things for our audience today. I want them to understand, and they're, you know, startups, we find ourselves in this place where we're at this pivotal point of growth, or what do we do? How do we get an investment? How do we, you know, partner with very, very successful organizations to help us go to that next level? And that's what it sounds like to me, Josh, that you guys like you said earlier, came in. So Josh, as you think about outside of other companies and even outside of this, let's talk about plug and play and how you can look at and say, okay, if you're there in this pivotal point, why do you need to call us? Why do you need to reach out to plug and play? Talk about that.
I think it's interesting. If you're a supplier, for example, there are multiple different ways we can help you. If it's access to somebody like Arkestro, we can do that. If a lot of these companies have the same challenges right now, everybody's supply chain is going through similar issues.
Right.
So imagine being able to sit in a room and say, Colgate-Palmolive and Maersk and Walmart are sitting in a room talking about, oh, I didn't realize that labor tech in warehouses is such a huge issue. We're having a really hard time staffing right now. What do you do? I didn't see this was such a big issue. And so learning from your network and peer group is really the hidden benefit of everything that we do. So it's startup introductions and it's partnering and networking with others, because in the end of the day, a lot of the challenges are very similar across these companies.
Mm-hmm. Right. So again, Grant, back to you on it. So you have this resource, which you talked about. So the suppliers watching today, people, again, in your place, what kind of added value from your seat, again, has Plug and Play brought? What's additional value that you can think of?
So, I would say what I didn't realize. So before I had joined Arkestro, the value that Plug and Play brings to the sales organization in these startups is tremendous. So being able to, if you do a email marketing campaign these days, every director level and up, their inbox is flooded with 100 emails, and it's hard to really figure out where is the value to really separate the signal from the noise. And Plug and Play does that for startups, giving us some good direction.
That's awesome.
But we're also able to help them. What I like too about them is because they're newer companies, so we get to see them in pitches and in front of a lot of customers. Mm-hmm. So hey, this is probably a better way to tackle this content moving forward. Or sometimes when I'm sitting with a startup and a company and I'm watching, you could see that there's a mismatch in content and what they're trying to say, and helping them understand the negotiation happening in front of them and being able to help them be better and more prepared for some of the next meetings. So we really are able to provide a mentor-based relationship for them as well. And they're so good at taking feedback and crafting new stories coming into some of the new meetings.
So on this mentor relationship, you stay with these companies. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think in different levels of relationship.
Yeah, right.
Somebody that is a portfolio company, which is one we invested in, and we are with them whatever they need. If they're looking for an introduction, or if they're looking for additional sources of funding, or if they're looking for guidance and help along their journey, it's just part of what we do.
Isn't it great, Grant, to be sitting in your chair knowing that you have someone that you can actually reach out and touch that's really close by in your area, in your community, that, when you do run into those headwinds and those roadblocks and those difficult decisions, you have a source that you can say, okay, he's a call away, he's an email away, and I know the guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be powerful for you.
Definitely. And it's not, Plug and Play is broken up by vertical. So, and even within Plug and Play, they have relationships into other verticals and other technology groups. So you're not only meeting, just supply chain focused companies, but it might be a brand and retail company or a health technology company.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways that the Plug and Play is a huge benefit to startups.
I'll have to tell you quickly about my impact on Plug and Play, okay? Because Josh, as I mentioned earlier, brought us in, and we did some live broadcasts on when we had the health event, the health seminar. They brought all these innovators around healthcare, and here's what and Josh let me sit in some of the meetings, which thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. And one of the things I learned a lot that day by talking. First, I was so inspired by talking to these young innovators of the future. But here's what I learned in one of the meetings is that the future of healthcare will not be solved from, and I will be real careful here, but may not be solved from people that are currently doing it. It may be solved from bringing new innovation into it, and something like that. I'm close, I think, with my members there. But And then after I was able to interview some of these startups and talk to these young men and women about their vision of healthcare and how they were approaching it, I will tell you, I left confident about how we're going to solve many of our issues in healthcare. For example, now you're sitting here, Grant, and we know of all the struggles we've had with supply chain and all the issues of us not getting product. Okay, right, right, and the shelves are empty, and now you have a source like Plug and Play that can help you fill those shelves with product and services or what it delivers. That's wonderful. So anyway, Josh, thank you. I really appreciate your company for doing that and hosting that. Are there other events that you're going to be hosting in the future?
Yeah, I think one of the best decisions we made last year was realizing there's the supply chains school at the University of Arkansas, which is #1 in the country.
Right.
And they have a tremendous amount of reach, both in content and in resources within the supplier community. And they've been running their own program and bringing in content and speakers and panelists for years. And we've been running our program. So we reached out to them and said, hey, let's sit down and do this together. And so last April, we ran a massive event that actually was about 6 hours of content, which people said that's too much content, which is a wonderful problem to have. And so we're gonna redo that again next year in April at the Momentary.
Wonderful.
With similar folks from the U of A, the Plug and Play team, wonderful startups in the room. And we're going to figure out what topic that we want to work to solve. But it's a free event for people in the community. We've had last year, for example, I got to host a panel with Chris Saltemeyer, former lead at Supply Chain.
Great friend of mine.
And Dave Warwick, who had a similar role at Microsoft. He flew in, and watching the people in the room, listening to the way they talked about supply chain, startup technology coming out of COVID. I mean, you couldn't have heard a pin drop. I mean, it was fantastic. And partnering with the U of A, we're going to replicate that event again in April.
Well, I will tell you, I'm just got to go out here, just a little marketing for doing business in Bentonville. I hope that I can be sitting out there and maybe do a broadcast and talk about it if you allow us to do that. That would be wonderful.
Easiest decision we've had all day.
I would tell you, I love retail. Of course, my career, as you all know, at Walmart and through my career and working through the investment programs, I spent some time in supply chain, and I felt like, well, I want to be in operations, and Walmart felt differently about 15 years later. I went to run HR. Now, I haven't put that together, but Walmart put it together, and it worked. But supply chain is so interesting, and you mentioned Chris, a great friend, and I thought he'd done a phenomenal job in that whole art and taught me so much about supply chain and all that. Well, okay, now, so we'll definitely make sure we will help promote that event on our website and get it out there. Maybe we could come in and do another podcast and talk about that prior to that. We'd love to do that with you. You're always welcome back to Doing Business in Bentonville. So that's on the horizon. Sounds wonderful. Now, so let's do this. As we think about summarizing this wonderful conversation that we've both had, let's go back. Let me go back to each of you and just talk about, okay, if we'll start with you, Grant. So again, startups are listening, they're watching. Give them 2 or 3 things that you would want to leave them with, and then we'll go back to Josh, and Josh, again, 2 or 3 things of how Plug and Play come alongside, or whatever else you gentlemen want to say. So, please.
Well, I think the relationship that you have with the relationship that Plug and Play has with corporations, the open innovation ecosystem that Plug and Play has created, is similar to the way that startups have to work with corporations as well. When you're a startup, you have to be able to learn and make mistakes and be able to change from that, right?
Right.
And so, if you're, let's say you get billions of lines of Excel spreadsheets and your system can't handle it, and then you have to go update your system. Well, you need an innovation team on the other side, on the corporate side that can work with you and make sure that you are set up for success. Because if you're a startup, there's going to be challenges along the way, and you really want to be able to work with an innovative team on the other side that is willing to help you along. And Plug and Play does a good job of bringing that group and finding who that person is in the organization and connecting you with them. So even if you have some relationship with a corporation, it cannot hurt to go through Plug and Play as well and see who they're working with on their side as well.
Perfect. All right, I'm sure you guys people reach out to you. I hope they do, and all that. So, thank you. Great summary there, and best to you and your company. And we really will keep sort of tracking you and see how things are going, and we only want the best. So best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And all of your wonderful people there. So, Josh, so in summary, wow, it's amazing what you bring. So talk to us about how would you wrap it up?
I mean, it's interesting if you think no matter what company you're working for right now, anybody that's $1 billion, $500 million and above, they all have innovation on their goals, objectives, and KPIs. So it's important to everybody right now. I was with a prospective client 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about innovation, and he said, I spent half my time searching the web, trying to find somebody to solve my problems. I said, well, we can do that for you. We can take that off your plate, not only source, but then vet the startups out as well. And everybody's got goals and objectives. And what I tell some of our clients is, if you have 5 goals that you're personally bonused on, and you could tackle 3 or 4 of them on your own, but there's 1 or 2 that you don't know where to start, that's where we can help.
Good.
That's where we can help. So having coffee, having a conversation with me doesn't cost anything. Sit down and we can figure out how the right way to help you. And I'm local. I'd love to sit down and have a meeting with anybody who wants to help solve their innovation gaps.
Well, again, thank you, Josh, for what your company does in helping startups. You know, we live in such a phenomenal area, and I just read a report this morning about what's taking place in Northwest Arkansas, and I want to tell you, it's exciting. It is so exciting. I've been here 30 years, and it just gets better every day. And so I'm so excited what's taking place. I'm so glad that you gentlemen came in today to be on the podcast. Thank you both very much for very valuable information. You know, one of the things that I said at the very beginning, we demystify this whole thing around omni-channel and retail. And one of the ways we do it, we bring subject matter experts to the table. We've had 2 here today. And again, thank you so much. Thank you for the right questions. Thank you for creating valuable content, helping organizations, startups. So thank you very much for both of you gentlemen. It's been a wonderful conversation. And I look forward very much for the future that we have many more conversations together.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, we'll have all this information for you, so no worries. You'll get it all. Again, thank you for being part of Doing Business in Bentonville. We're at your favorite place to watch us or click and listen to us. So check out Spotify, Apple, and of course, we're all over LinkedIn and social media platforms. So thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Thank you.